I have over 350 hours in Path of Exile 2. And in this video, I want to share with you guys my experience as a new player. We're going to talk about everything here: the campaign, the gearing, the drops, the economy, the end game, the mapping, essentially everything. And hopefully after watching this video, if you're still thinking if you should or shouldn't get into POE2, I hope this helps you out, okay? Now keep in mind, when it comes to ARPGs in general, I do have experience. I actually love playing ARPGs a lot. However, not with the Path of Exile universe. I have a level 90 Blood Mage. I'm playing the maps. I'm clearing tier 17s, 18s, one-shotting bosses, all that kind of stuff. I also have a level 83 monk, and I'm working on a really cool build for the monk as well. But where I want to start this video is actually the campaign. So for me personally, I thought the campaign, the 3 acts on normal, was an absolutely incredible experience. From the first second as I got into the game and started playing on my witch, it just felt really good. Killing the enemies feels very good. The animations feel very fluid as well. Now, depending on which character you're going to be playing, your leveling experience might be faster or might be slower. I really enjoyed my time with the witch class, I will say that. And one thing that this game does really well is that it rewards you for exploration, especially for your first playthrough, because as you go through the maps, you're going to find different bosses, and killing those bosses in this game, first of all, that's where the fun is at, because it's challenging but yet very rewarding at the same time. On top of that, following the quests was pretty simple. There was only maybe one point in the second act where it was a little bit confusing because there was no symbol on top of the character to tell me that I had to, progress with the quest over there. And the progression when it comes to the questing felt pretty nice. I think that the boss designs were phenomenal. I think that the way the bosses did their animations and attacks were perfect, meaning there was definitely some skill involved, right? 90% of the time when I did die, it felt like, I could have played better. I could have timed my rolls better, or, attacks better, and so on. It was all about timing and learning the mechanics of the bosses, and I had a really great time. The animations from the bosses and designs are on a completely different level if you compare it to some of the other ARPGs. For example, if you take Diablo 4, I'm gonna be honest here, it's not on the same level. It's pretty much out of this world how big the difference is when it comes to like enemy designs and specifically boss designs and animations as well, right? It's just a great fun experience. Now, the other 10% of bosses did feel clunky. There's a few of them, not many, but some of them did feel clunky to the point that you could feel that the hitboxes were off, or maybe it was a animation issue, meaning their skills wouldn't really show that well the area of damage when they were hitting you, right? And you felt like you were rolling out or moving out of the skills that they were doing, but in reality you would get hit and get killed. That was a little bit frustrating. But when it comes to the overall experience with the bosses, I had a great time. I think that it was an easy 8, 9 out of 10. If we didn't have those issues with some of the bosses, I wouldn't even give it an 8 or a 9. I would just straight up give it a 10. Now, when it comes to some of the other things, for example, understanding, the skill gems and the passive skill trees and so on as a new player, one thing that I would advise in general is that if you're getting into POE2, you should probably look at a few guides, and some of the most important ones is going to be crafting and just skill gems explained. Those two would put you on the right track, because when you're playing the game at first, the thing is you do need to understand how a lot of things work, because gearing is very important in this game. And if you fall back with that, the experience that you're going to have with the game can be kind of off, right? It's not going to feel the best because you are going to feel underpowered. And the way this game works is that one weapon, like literally one good weapon, can change the whole experience. You could get a staff with like +2 to cold skills or +3 to lightning skills somewhere at the beginning of the game, and now you're just 2-tapping and 3-tapping bosses and killing them within a few seconds. So the difference is huge, and there is definitely some things that you can do with crafting in order to make that happen much easier, right? So yeah, I would advise to do that. Now let's talk about gear drops through the campaign, because I think this is going to be one of the main reasons you want to learn crafting. The reason I say that, guys, is because even though they have mentioned in the past that when, before the game launched, that they wanted the gear to be very impactful, which it is, right? Like if you get the right pieces, it is. Nobody out of my friend group was really getting the gear as a drop. I mean, the gear that they really wanted. Like you could be level 65 And in some cases, some of my friends were using like 32 weapons, right? I was pretty much the same. I was like level 60-ish, and I was using like a 35 wand because I dropped a pretty decent rare wand, and I really didn't get anything better after that. And even though you do see drops on the ground, like not necessarily rare all the time, which is the yellow rarity, right? The problem for us was we would get other classes weapons. So I would play a witch and I barely saw a scepter. Like I had almost never seen one drop. So one of my friends hooked me up with a cool scepter, and I would get their weapons and I would trade that to them, and so on. So it didn't feel like very natural when it comes to the gear drops that would make your character feel stronger through the gameplay. And that was an issue. And once again, that's why I think that crafting can be so valuable, and understanding the NPCs as well, because some of the NPCs do sell weapons. For example, you can sometimes walk up to the NPC. That NPC has an incredible wand. You pick up that wand and now you're good to go, you know, and then you upgrade it with some of the crafting materials and now you have a decent weapon. So those things can definitely happen. But when it comes to gearing, yeah, in terms of drops, we didn't really get that many good drops through the campaign, which was a little bit heartbreaking, because it's always exciting to get that very strong item and to make your character so much stronger with one drop, and also keeps you excited, right? Because now you know you got one item to drop that is so strong. You played a few levels, boom, another item drops. Now you feel better. That was not the case. So that was one of the factors that kind of slowed down the progression. And once again, one of the factors why you want to understand crafting. So the first playthrough through the acts 1, 2, 3, great experience. I didn't really have any issues. My friends also loved it. We were having a phenomenal time. When you get into the cruel difficulty on your first playthrough, and what I think that makes that much easier is if you understand the trading system. Having the understanding of the trading system will help you and make the run much smoother, much easier. Because the thing is, as I said, the drops don't really give you the ability to keep upgrading your gear a lot of the times, unfortunately. However, trading does. And if you understand the system on how to trade with other players and the in-game currency trading as well, that gives you the ability to pick up just a few items that are actually not crazy, but stronger than the ones you have. And that just will make your experience running through cruel difficulty much easier. And we're going to talk about trading and the issues with currency and economy here later on when I talk about endgame. But yeah, I would advise to get some understanding of trading as well as you move into the cruel difficulty, in case you're struggling with your playthrough. The map designs were great. They looked absolutely stunning through the campaign as well. Obviously, the maps are super big. Now, for me personally, I'm a player that really likes to explore the maps. So that wasn't a big issue that, you know, I had to pretty much move all over the place to find the right directions. However, if you don't enjoy that, I can see how that can be a little bit frustrating, because especially in Act 3, some of the maps are just incredibly big. Like it's insane how long you have to move around and find the right directions. As I said, for me personally, not a problem. And to be honest, now if you're hopping into the game, it's much chiller because they made it possible for you to teleport between checkpoints. So let's say you go to one end of the map and there's nothing there, but you see a checkpoint, you literally just open up the map and teleport to the other checkpoint on the other side of the map, and you're good to go. You don't have to run all the way there, which we did have to do when the game launched. But as I said, for me, that was absolutely fine. So overall, the campaign experience for a new player like myself, pretty good. I figured out the skill gems and all of those things pretty easily. I was putting together some really fun builds on the witch, shooting the poison arrows, exploding with fire explosions and whatnot. And I was just having an overall great time with raging spirits, destroying bosses. Phenomenal. For me personally, I could easily say the best experience I've ever had in any ARPG period going through the campaign. Usually when I play ARPGs, it feels so boring to get through the campaign because I know that the end game is where it's at. This was not the case with POE2. The campaign was a great experience, and I was so excited to find a new boss, right? Because the designs are so different and unique from each other. It definitely feels like something fresh every single time. And not only that, but these bosses do give you permanent effects that make your character stronger, right? Some of them give you passive skills, some of them give you spirit. Great design, man. I don't know what else to say. Like, honestly, easily one of my best times I've ever had in an ARPG when it comes to getting through the campaign. Now let's talk about the end game, because I think a lot of new players are gonna struggle around the end game, and there's quite a few reasons for that. So let's break that down. So as you get to the end game, right, you are gonna unlock the maps. And maps, especially when you open up this at first, feels, very confusing, and it feels like, oh my God, what the hell is happening on my screen? There's just so much stuff. However, once you really understand what the map is, it's pretty simple. I don't think it's as complicated as people make it out to be, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't have issues, right? The biggest problem I ran into when I was playing the maps at first, for example, the waystones. Now I know that you can, upgrade your Atlas tree so that, you get more waystones to drop and so on. But for a new player, especially if we're talking about like pulling in new players, it didn't feel very natural in terms of progression. So for example, when I was doing, let's say, a tier 3 and I didn't have any more, or let's say tier 5, and I didn't have any more waystones, I was running out of them, I didn't really get drops, even if I would complete some of the, harder ones with the waystones, right? Like with the, making the enemy stronger and so on. So we've upgraded the breach, as you will see right here, right? And we're also working on the boss maps and so on. The problem always was that even if I'm doing a tier 15 breach or whatever it is, or a 17, I keep getting like tier 2s, 3s, and 4s way more often than I'll get like a tier 15. Now, this isn't a huge problem when you're already at the max tiers. You can start up the boss map eventually. Bosses do drop you high tier waystones, but it is a problem for a new player, in my opinion, because they're always trying to search in a way for these waystones to keep progressing, and it kind of artificially stops them from doing it. And yes, you can combine some of the waystones, and yes, with NPCs you can buy some of them, but up to only a specific tier, and they cost 9,000 gold. And at the beginning, once you're making your way to the end game, you don't really have that much gold. Let's see right here, like you buy and then they're gone too, right? Like it's not like they have infinite, so you can't really combine them all the time, and then the drops are not that great in terms of waystones. So it does slow down your progress in a big way, and I thought that was a pretty annoying issue. Pretty much all of my friends had the same issue at the beginning. Once you hit a specific threshold, then it's better because you're consistently killing bosses on these maps, and then you just accumulate an amount of these waystones that gives you the ability to just keep playing those higher tiers and map bosses, and you just get more and more and more. But until then, it was actually pretty annoying. However, that's not the biggest issue. Like, that's one of the issues that can be very annoying, but that's not the biggest issue. I think one of the biggest problems for new players, especially if you're trying to get into the game now, is going to be the economy. And there's a few reasons for that. Now, trading is where it's at when it comes to gearing. That's why I said that, you should understand trading when you're getting into cruel difficulty, because I think that it definitely makes it overall more fun and enjoyable. But what happened was overnight, the economy went absolutely insane. So not just the exalteds, but now like divines are all over the place, and not even that crazy or strong gear can cost up to 10-15 divines, which a lot of times doesn't even make sense, right? And if you look through the shops, you'll probably find a better item maybe for like 2 divines, but that doesn't also always happen. Now, for all the people that don't know, essentially divine is a currency, one of the most important currencies in the game. Now, the problem is that the divine doesn't drop that often, especially if you're a new player and you're not stacking a lot of rarity. And rarity is one of the other problems that the game has. So let's quickly take a look at what rarity is in this game for all the people that don't know. It is a stat that increases the rarity of items found, and currently it is very strong. So you see a lot of people just stacking as much rarity as possible, which then makes the farms way more effective and you're getting more and more drops. But the problem is that to get this kind of gear as a new player, it's not that easy to get pieces that are both powerful and have the rarity percentage on them. So a lot of people who don't have rarity on their gear are kind of struggling to get the currencies that are needed to buy better gear, make your character stronger in general, and so on. Now, I don't think that rarity is horrible, but I do think it needs to be balanced in some way or another so that you're not forced to have pieces with too much rarity all the time, and you don't have to like be like, oh, you know what, this is a great damage piece, but I'm gonna go ahead and pick up that one because it has rarity, and now I'm saying no to damage. Because to buy a piece that has both rarity and damage perks, for example, if that's what you're looking for on it, yeah, that's like 20, 30, 40, 50 divine. People go crazy with the prices. So if a new player is getting to the end game, they are so behind with the economy that it can cause an issue of gearing. Unless you have a friend who has tons of divines and is trying to help you, and he just helps you out with gearing, then you're fine. But apart from that, you know, understanding how to farm, how to make the waystones better, which trials to farm, and so on. Like, I like to farm the Trials of Chaos. I've made around 20 to 40 divines a day. As a new player, you're not going to be doing that very fast, right? It's going to take time for you to get through the campaign, gear up your character. Then you got to be able to clear the Trials of Chaos consistently in order to kill the Trial Master. And I have a full-on guide about that, so make sure to check it out. I'll drop it in the description, how I make Exalted on Divine on the higher difficulties. But in general, I don't think that that is that new player friendly. Now let's talk a little bit about progression in terms of like upgrading your Atlas. Now, for all the people that don't know, Atlas is the ultimate end game. So technically what you're doing at end game is making the enemies stronger. For example, right here, you see that for the breaches, it says in your maps, breaches have 40% increased monster density. So the more monsters, the higher difficulty, it gets crazy. And it's tons of fun. I'm not gonna lie, it really is, right? However, that said, not all of these events that you see here feel the same or feel as good as some of them. So if you take a look at the maps, you will see that we got a bunch of events here, right? So we have, for example, Breach, Delirium, Expedition, Ritual, Corruption, all that kind of stuff. Now, in my opinion, the best ones are gonna be the Breach, the bosses on the maps, and maybe Delirium. Now, the reason I like Breach the most is that it does feel like the progression is very natural and you're not forcing yourself into RNG like you're almost playing a slot machine with some of the other ones. Now, if you're running the Ritual, for example, you have to get lucky. It has to be in there. Then you have to re-roll. It might not be there again. It's literally like playing a slot machine. And for me personally, that wasn't a lot of fun. However, the Breach, when I'm clearing it, I'm getting the items I need. I collect 300 of them. Now I can summon the boss. I kill the boss. I make my breaches even stronger, even more enjoyable, which means more loot, more fun. And it felt like the progression itself, when it comes to breaches, way better designed than compared to, once again, the Ritual or even the Delirium. I think that Breach in general is better than Delirium. I do enjoy Delirium, don't get me wrong. But in terms of like progression, once again, the Breach just feels better. Make sure to let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. So the biggest issues as a new player once getting into it, obviously the game is complex, don't get me wrong, but I think you can get around that by, you know, watching the 1 or 2 guides. I also have guides about like the end game and like a full guide, a real beginner guide as well. I'll drop those in the description. Make sure to check them out. It will just explain the game to you as a new player in a very simple language to the point that you'll be like, oh, okay, that's not as bad, right? And I think that that will put you on the right track. And I feel like doing that and watching those guides from any content creator you enjoy, by the way, will make the game much more enjoyable for you. This game is complex still. I don't think it's as complex as POE1 because all the crazy stuff I heard about POE1 is definitely not in here. And, you know, it's much more simplified when it comes to gearing and gems and whatnot. But you still will benefit from watching those kind of guides just to make the overall experience much more enjoyable. So the campaign, in my opinion, absolutely phenomenal. The waystone problem at the end game is an issue. The economy is an issue. Rarity has to be probably redesigned to the point that that's not the only thing that we chase at the end of the day. Now, I will say that when it comes to rarity, I'm currently at around 110%. I've tried around 300%. I really didn't see that big of a difference. So I went back to 110% and instead started to use more powerful gear. And I'm still getting divines, but they're rare. Do keep in mind, this is early access. I'm sure that a lot of these problems will be taken care of once the game actually launches. Another thing to keep in mind is that what really kind of hurt this even more is that people started duplicating some very high price items, then selling them, which then creates, more and more divine rotations and so on. And a lot of people did that as well. So that's unfortunate. That really hurts the overall economy of the game, and especially as a new player if you're jumping in. However, so we talked about the good, we talked about the bad. Would I suggest this game to a player? First, let's discuss players that have never played ARPGs in their life and they're like, this game looks interesting, should I get into it? Maybe you enjoy MMOs, but you've never played ARPGs, right? I'm gonna tell you this, I have not had so much fun in the last few years when it comes to any game period. Like, this was one of the best times I've ever had in a video game. And even if you just play through the campaign, even if you just get through the campaign on both difficulties, trust me, you are getting your money's worth. That's how good the map designs, the boss fights, everything, the animations of your characters, how it feels to play, all of it. That's how good it was. Now, obviously, this is just my opinion. I'm not sponsored. Nobody's paying me. And we've discussed these topics with my friends as well. And all of my friends, by the way, are completely new to Path of Exile 2. They had no experience with POE 1. However, they did have a lot of experience with the Diablo and a lot of other ARPGs. And we all come to the conclusion that out of all the ARPGs that we've played in the last decade, it has been the most enjoyable and fun experience. I think one of the things you need to keep in mind and kind of prepare yourself is that this game can be challenging. But for me personally, guys, that's what makes it fun. I didn't at any point of the campaign feel like the game was impossible to play. I really didn't. With a few adjustments with my build, understanding the systems, figuring out how things worked, I made it possible to get through bosses. And man, when I tell you it felt good to kill that boss on the 7th or 8th or 10th try after adjusting my build or swapping out some items and crafting a little bit better ones, it really did feel good. It felt very rewarding. And that's what I miss about video games in general. A lot of the times, games come out nowadays, they're very easy. You get to the end game, there's nothing at the end game, and even when you're getting through the campaign, it doesn't feel fun. This game is an exception. The campaign feels fun, and a lot of fun, and very unique fun as well because of the boss designs and the battles that you're gonna get into. So if you haven't played ARPGs at all, and you're thinking, oh, it looks a little bit scary, give it a go. I promise you, you will not regret it, especially for the price you have to pay for early access. The amount of content, in my opinion, is phenomenal. It's great to be a part of the community. It's great to make content for this game, and it just overall feels good. Now, let's say you're a player that has tons of experience with ARPGs, like myself. Should you play it? That's not even a question. If you enjoy ARPGs, even a little bit, tiny little bit, what are you doing, bro? Hop in. Don't waste your time. Don't wait. Don't listen to anything. Experience stuff on your own. Maybe if you don't like challenges and you only want easy stuff and you want to progress without any kind of issues and feel overpowered from second one of the game, I created my character, I need to one-shot a boss. If that's you, don't play the game. That's not going to be the case on your first playthrough unless you get some kind of broken weapon, which can happen, but most likely it's not going to happen, right? In that case, that would be the only case scenario where I would say, maybe just, stay away from the game. Maybe it's not for you because it is a challenging game. But overall, great experience. All of my friends are still playing. The retention has been great. We're creating different builds, getting into trading more and more, figuring out better and better ways to farm Exalted and Divines. A lot of them are really good strategies, by the way, and they're working, so it's been tons of fun. Okay, that is my thoughts after 350 hours of gameplay. Make sure to let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section below. And yeah, once again, I hope you guys try the game out. I truly feel like it's a phenomenal game. I want to give a huge shout out to the PoE community in general. You guys have shown so much love with the builds and guides and whatnot. It's incredible. Thank you so much for all the love and support. As always, stay positive, stay disciplined, and I'll see you all on the next one.